The object in question was in fact quite visible, though admittedly looking rather shell-shocked by the recent immersion, in a most interesting shade of pale blue. Well, I said after a moment's contemplation, great oaks from tiny acorns grow. A shiver ran through him at the warmth of my mouth, and I lifted my hands involuntarily, cradling his balls. Holy God, he said, and his hands rested lightly on my head in benediction. What did you say? He asked a moment later. I said, coming up momentarily for air, I find the goose flesh rather erotic. There's more where that came from, he assured me. Take your shift off, Cessna. I haven't seen you naked in nearly 6 months. Well, no, you haven't, I agreed, hesitating. And I'm not sure I want you to. One eyebrow went up. Why ever not? Because I've been indoors for weeks on end without sun or exercise to speak of. I probably look like one of those grubs you find under rocks. Fat, white, and squidgy. Squidgy, he repeated, breaking into a grin. Squidgy, I said with dignity, wrapping my arms around myself. He pursed his lips and exhaled slowly, eyeing me with his head on one side. I like it when you're fat, but I can't tell well that you're not, he said. Because I felt your ribs when I put my arms about you each night since the end of January. As for white, you've been white all the time I've known you. It's not likely to come a great shock to me. As for the squidgy part, he extended one hand and wiggled the fingers beckoningly at me. I think I might enjoy that. I said, still hesitant. He sighed. Sassenach, he said. I said, I haven't seen you naked in 6 months. That means if you take your shift off now, you'll be the best thing I've seen in 6 months. And at my age, I didn't think I remember farther back than that. I laughed, and without further ado, stood up and pulled the ribbon tie at the neck of my shift. Wriggling, I let it fall in a puddle round my feet. He closed his eyes, then breathed deep and opened them again. I'm blinded, he said softly, and held out a hand to me. Blinded as in sun bouncing off a vast expanse of snow, I asked dubiously, or as in coming face to face with a gorgon. Seeing a gorgon turns you to stone, that strikes you blind, he informed me. But come to think, he prodded himself with an experimental forefinger. I may turn to stone yet. Will you come here, for God's sake? I came. Well, thanks very much. Yeah, so you've had a little bit of respite to think of the questions and all that. I can save you a little time by telling you about movies and casting and all that right up front. Let's see, the books are under option to a production company. We've signed option agreements 4 times since I wrote the book, first book in 1991. What an option is when a production company gives you a modest amount of money in return for a period of time. This could be 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. But during this time, they have the sole and exclusive right to try to raise $60 million and get a director and make a movie. If they do manage to put together all of the stuff required, then they actually buy the film rights from you, which means they pay you a slightly larger amount of money. And at that point, they own them in perpetuity throughout the universe forever. This is actually what a film option contract says. You know, the first time I read one, I said to my agent, they're joking, aren't they? He said, oh no, they're not joking. That's why you're very careful when you do option company with a company, because there's always this off chance that they will in fact succeed and buy the rights, and then you don't know what they'll do. So anyway, we've only done it 4 times, even though we do get inquiries all the time. Right now, the option lies with a company called Essential Entertainment. Oh, a very nice group of people. When you do an option, you want to deal with people who've actually made a movie before. This rules out about 98% of the inquiries. You would also like people who actually read the book. You know, some of them only want it because it's a bestseller. They're going to write their own story. And, excuse me. And you also want people who understand the book. I had one very nice producer who flew over from Hollywood and to have lunch with me in Scottsdale. And we were having a good time talking about things. And we got to casting, and she said, well, of course, Jamie's character needs to be Scottish because of the kilt, but I don't see why Claire's character couldn't be an American. And I said, well, in that case, you don't see why I won't give you an option either. But these people do, in fact, appear to get it. The chief producer actually read the book 4 times before calling me for an option. And during the negotiations, he called me one day to tell me he thought he was channeling Murtaugh. So, you know, we like them. As my first film agent said, if you care what they do to your book, don't sell it to them. Because, you know, once you've sold a book, they have it. They can do anything they want. So this outfit has, in fact, had a script written. They hired Randall Wallace, the guy who wrote Braveheart and also Pearl Harbor. This being how Hollywood thinks. They say, well, we have a story here about a Scottish Highlander and a World War II nurse. You know, who else would you have hired to write it out? script, and that's all I'm going to say about it. They are looking for a director at the moment, and if they find one, then we're one step closer. So I don't know. It's always long odds and not the sort of thing where you hold your breath about it, but you know, it took them 52 years to make a good movie out of Lord of the Rings, so you know, you should never give up hope either. Okay, as to who I would cast, I have no idea. I mean, I know what Jamie and Claire look like, and I've never seen any actors who look like them. But, you know, resemblance is really not the important thing here, because an actor is an artist, just like a sculptor, a painter, a novelist. And their art is to embody somebody that they aren't. You can't tell by looking at someone who you may look, you know, exactly like whoever you have in mind, whether they can actually act like them or not. You could get someone who was a perfect, you know, body double. If they couldn't act, it would be a terrible movie. Whereas you could get someone who really had only a very passing resemblance, but he could act like Jamie or like Claire, and then it would be great. And you just don't know. You know, I would never have picked Sissy Spacek to play Loretta Lynn and Coal Miner's daughter, but she did a wonderful job. So, I mean, you just don't know, and that's why there are casting directors. So I'll kind of leave it up to them. But, you know, if and when anything else gets announced, I will certainly tell you about it. Okay, does anybody have any questions that don't have to do with the movies? Yeah.
I have a lot of questions that I dare not ask because there are too many people who haven't finished the book. But one that has me a bit confused is the Dottie in England who likes William.
Yeah.
The same, what was her name? It wasn't Dottie, it was
Dorothea.
Dorothea in Philadelphia.
That's her.
Who wants to marry Dr. Hunter.
That's her.
Same person.
Same person.
Did I miss something in there?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, but I don't think I can explain it without ruining things for people
yes,
who have
of
it.
course.
But if you'd like to, I'll talk to you about it when you get your book signed.
Very good.
I'll explain it. Yeah.
One of the things that we love is not just reading books, but listening to them on audio. And I just wanted to hear what you thought about the rendition by Davina Porter.
Oh, Davina Porter. I love Davina. She is wonderful.
She
is
is.
the actress who does the unabridged audios. I mean, never buy the abridged audios. There is about 23, well, for Fiery Cross, there is 23% of the book in the abridged audio. Yeah. I should tell you about Fairy Cross and Breath of Snow and Ashes because a lot of people complain that they can't get them on audible.com. Well, this is true, you can't. You can get them from recorded books. Just go to www.recordedbooks.com. You can rent them, you can buy them, you can get them on CD, you can get them in an MP3 format so to listen to on your iPod. You just have to get them for recorded books. And that is because when we did the first contracts for the abridged version, it covered the first 6 books. And our agreement there was that they could only license them for 10 years, and rather than, you know, as long as they chose to keep them in print. But that as long as they held that license, they let me keep the unabridged rights because I insisted, because they never thought I'd find anyone who would be willing to do that big a book. But they said we could not compete directly with them. In other words, the unabridged version, if we ever made one, could not be sold in retail outlets next to the abridged version, because they knew if anybody ever saw the abridged one next to the unabridged one, they'd realize exactly what was going on and no one would buy the abridged one. So as the rights have expired, we have, you know, cut them off, and we said, no, we're never doing this, you know. So the first 4 books, we've recovered the rights, and they're all available in unabridged format only on audible.com, as well as, you know, in bookstores and so forth. The rights have not yet expired for Fiery Cross and Breath of Snow and Ashes, which is why we can't sell them through audible.com until they do, which they will in the next few years. But meanwhile, as I say, you can get those 2 books from recorded books. Now, Echo and the Bone was not covered under that first contract, so there is no abridged version, and there never will be. So that one is in fact now available on audible.com. You can get it now if you want to.
I'm going to Audible.
Oh, as long as we're talking about audiobooks, I also recommend the Lord John books in audio form, because the guy who reads those is just spectacular. He actually sounds to me exactly like Lord John sounds in my head, you know? And he's just marvelous with the accents and all that. I love those. No, they're terrific. Yes.
I'm not going to spoil the plot, but
Okay,
I have a
good.
question about a little vignette that's in Echo in the Bone. I'm an ecologist, and so whenever you intersect with that world, I really pay attention. And there's this wonderful scene with Claire and with Roger, and Claire is out collecting medicinal plants,
Right.
and she makes the point to Roger that it's not superstition that
I
takes
love
her
that
out of the
too.
fold of